Hey everybody, this is Andy from Tennis Euphoria. Tennis Euphoria is a channel that provides racket reviews. We explain racket terminology, and I also look to bring my fitness expertise to the table to give you some hints and tips around tennis fitness. If all of that sounds interesting to you, subscribe below so that you don't miss a video in the future. In this video, I'm really excited to bring you my review of the V7 version of the Wilson blade. Now, I ummed and ahed as to which version to test, the 16x19 or the 18-20, but I went with the 16-19 as I'd heard that the spacing was pretty small for a 16-19, and hence I felt on balance this was probably the 98 16x19 version, the one that would get most traction in the market and would be of most interest to people. First, a thought about the Wilson blade. So I guess on the positive side of things, it is the most commonly used racket on tour. Fantastic, they must be doing something right if professional players love the blade. Also, I've never come across an advanced level player who doesn't like a version of the blade, and also the 2015 version of the blade is just unanimously seen as really good. I totally agree. I know a number of really good advanced players who still use that racket and will not move from it, so that's the positives. But here's the potential downside. So in the blade line, I totally get the 98 square inch head. If we're looking at a feel and control orientated frame, then surely a 98 inch head is the sort of space that we need to be in. So the kind of 104 lines I don't really understand, although I'm not saying that they're a bad racket. But I guess most importantly, when I came back to playing, I started with a Prestige Pro, which on another video I said I didn't really get on with. So I moved to the blade, the countervail version, the blacked out version, thought that looked pretty cool, and I wanted all of those blade characteristics, and it just didn't deliver for me. I think that was the countervail. It just felt dead, very muted. I felt it also lacked a bit of power. So I was pretty excited when this V7 version came out. And I guess my excitement for the Blade V7 was kind of enhanced when I hit with the Clash. So the new Clash technology I felt delivered in one really good area, comfort and feel. Now, I don't really see the Clash as an amazing control racket, which is interestingly what Wilson describe it as on their website. I'm not saying it's a bad racket at all, I'll review that at another time. But what I did wonder was if they're transferring that technology into the V7 blade, then wow, what could that do for the feel of the blade? So let's have a look at the specs, and I guess nothing surprising there. We have a 98 square inch head, a 16x19 string pattern, 32 centimeters balance, 7 points headlight, 305 grams, but the best bits for me was a 62 stiffness rating, much lower than the previous blade at 66, and a 328 swing weight. And from a tech perspective, we have parallel drilling. We also have a mixture of basalt and braided graphite for increased feel, which sounds really interesting. And then of course we have that Clash technology. And if I read from the Wilson Labs marketing, which sounds really good, the all-new carbon mapping system, combination of Freeflex and StableSmart, used in the Clash racket had proven it was possible to exaggerate a racket's horizontal and vertical flexibility without sacrificing best-in-class stability. So the team went to work strategically integrating carbon mapping throughout the blade's frame. They tweaked and tested various iterations, each time getting feedback from players. Sounds pretty good, hey? And I think the really interesting bit is that clearly they're going to get feedback from advanced players, maybe from professional players, and they say that 64% of players who tested the new blade picked it over the previous, and that's quite a big thing. You know, advanced tennis players, particularly professional tennis players, will be very reluctant to change their gear, so that's a real indication that things are going in the right way. So what about taking it on court? On the wall, I had a really good experience. What I found was quite a maneuverable racket, and also it did feel really nice and flexible, certainly very comfortable. And I just had that really nice indication that it would have quite a sort of smooth, flexible feel to it. On the baseline, I also found that it worked really well, so it was maneuverable. I also found that it did have really good control. I think that string spacing, is pretty small for a 16-19, so you don't lack any control, and it felt whippy. What surprised me was it was more powerful and it generated more spin than I would expect from the baseline, but that's a really good thing. Now, one thing that I look for in rackets to use for myself is a relatively good launch angle, and that's always a struggle for me. I'm looking for control, but also a good launch angle, as I don't play with a huge amount of spin. And I have to say that in this racket, it felt like the perfect combination. I could be precise, I could move quickly with it, and the launch angle gave me that little bit of forgiveness over the net that I need in my game. Thinking about hitting out and attacking with it, again, it performed really, really well. As I said just previously, it is more powerful than I expected to be, but you don't lack any control, and it is really maneuverable. So I could move in on something, pick my target, hit out, and feel really, really confident. And in that all-important claimed area of being a feel racket, how was it for touch shots, drop shots, and net play? And again, it was brilliant. I felt I could be creative. I felt that at net it was very, very stable and I could point and shoot. I was getting a feeling of basically this racket was doing everything very, very well. On serve, and I don't have much footage of serving here, but what I can tell you in match play, it was probably lacking a little bit in terms of power on serve. No real problems. I could certainly put the ball where I wanted it to, and I was serving pretty well with it. But if you're after a full out power racket on serve, then this probably isn't for you. But on balance with everything else that it gives, I don't see that really as a negative. I think overall the racket performs so well in all areas generally, to only be at a kind of 6-7 out of 10 on serve. Whilst the serve is such an important shot, I guess it's just something to sort of think about, but not a reason to give the racket a bad review. So everything is pretty rosy, you're probably thinking, and for the main that is the case. The only thing I would say is that it took me a little while to get strings right. So initially I was hitting with a go-to string of mine, Dunlop Black Widow. I went with full poly. I mean, we've got a really nice 62 stiffness, so I felt a full poly wouldn't be a problem on my arm, and I also strung it maybe a little bit tight, sort of 54 in the mains, 55 in the crosses. Odd combination, but somewhere to start, and that didn't really work by my own admission. I actually felt that it sprayed a little bit on me, particularly on attacking shots and on return of serve, which was interesting. And I did struggle to sort of get it right with strings, so I looked at a combination of natural gut and poly. I didn't really get on with that either, but what I did find worked really well was a low tension string poly, which offers relatively good spin in itself. So I arrived at green head links at around 52 pounds, and everything was just working really, really well at that point. And I have to say, I also thought it looked pretty good in the racket. I guess another really good positive is that I didn't change the racket at all. I always try and test rackets in stock form. If I feel that they can be greatly improved or they blatantly need some extra weight, for example, then I will play around with them a little. But for the main, I think it's important to try and test rackets in stock form, as ultimately most people won't want to customize their rackets. And this blade delivered for me. It was stable, 305 static weight. It felt still maneuverable. I also found the swing weight gave really good plow through, and it was really combining feel, control with power and spin as it is, so it was really doing its job. So in summary then, we have a flexible, maneuverable, comfortable, control and feel orientated racket that performs really well on the baseline, is great for moving from defense to attack, is brilliant if you're looking to play creatively with drop shots. It's also fantastic at the net. It's stable, you can put the ball where you want it to. It's okay on serve, but you'll probably have to work on your technique and perhaps spend a bit of time there. Ultimately, what's not to like? If you are using the countervail version of the blade, then it's definitely worth an upgrade. And I certainly think that this V7 version of the blade has really cemented its position as the benchmark around a feel orientated racket. So well done, Wilson. And as a final thought, isn't it lovely to have a racket that is really doing what the manufacturer claims around some revolutionary tech? If I read another piece from Wilson Labs, then actually, yes, I totally agree with what they say. Armed with learnings from the revolutionary crash racket, the Wilson Labs team have successfully created a blade racket that is better than any blade before. By incorporating Freeflex technology into the frame, we've been able to maximize control, power and spin without compromising the connected feel that is so crucial to the blade line. Absolutely, I would totally agree. And again, well done, Wilson. So where has my playtesting left me with regards to the Wilson blade? Well, I absolutely could use it as my go-to racket. I could definitely take it into competitive play. I feel that I could trust it, rely on it, play how I would want to play, combination of baseline hitting, being creative when possible, putting away points. But it has led me to two big questions. First of all, I've got to try the 1820. I just think that would be also something great to test. But I'm also left really intrigued by the Wilson Blade 98S. Same technology, lighter, but a really interesting spin effect string pattern of 18 in the mains, 16 in the crosses. So yes, I would have to add some weight to this. I would take it up to the 305 weight that the 98 16 19 has, and I'll do that with this, and I'll string it up with the head links too. But knowing that the mains in a racket ultimately does most of the work and gives it most of the characteristics, I think this could be really quite interesting. So you've got 18 in the mains and then 16 in the crosses that potentially, when I need it, could give me that launch angle and spin. So it's definitely left me wanting more. I might use it as my racket, and I'm definitely going to try the other two iterations of the line too. Hope you enjoyed the review and found it helpful. If you did, please like the video and think about subscribing so you don't miss anything in the future. Tell your tennis friends about it as well. Next up will be some more racket reviews, as the UK has now opened its courts for singles play. So I've got some really interesting racket reviews coming up, and I've also got a couple more fitness videos for you over the next couple of months. So hope you're also able to get back on court. It is so good to do so. Check out that V7 blade. It is awesome. Well done, Wilson.